everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I have a very special guest today. Usually I talk about jazz records and I review jazz record sets, or I interview producers in the industry. I just interviewed Nick Phillips and Ashley Kahn for a forthcoming Sonny Rollins box set. But I've been following drummer percussionist Kate Gentile. Hi, Kate.
Hi.
For a few years now. When I was still at Modern Drummer, I did a piece on her first album, Mannequins, and she's a wonderful drummer, and she incorporates all these new music ideas, and it's like super fresh and interesting. And there's so much going on. There's a lot of meat in all her records and in her compositions. Even though I haven't heard, she's been really, really busy. The first album in 2017 was called Mannequins. Her new album is called Biome on the Obliquity label. That's the one we're going to be talking about. In the fall, she has a record with Jeremy Viner, Matt Mitchell, and Kim Kasser, working band called Fine Letter X. And then another upcoming record, Snark Horse, co-led with Matt Mitchell on Pie. And also upcoming Flagrances with Andrew Smiley on Obliquity. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Snark Horse came out in 2021.
Okay. Yeah. And then she has a lot of credit. She's worked with Michael Attias, Tim Byrne, Anthony Braxton, Steve Coleman, Dave Douglas, Mary Ehrlich, Chris Speed, Chris Tordini, Anna Weber. She's really in the thick of it for new music in the city. And some new music or contemporary jazz, I really can't stand, but this kind of moves past that into more of, is it like, what if you had to call it something, what do you call it? Your style of music?
I never know how to answer that question. And I've normally defaulted to just calling it jazz in the past, just kind of lumping it all in there. It's because it's coming from that tradition, and as far as there's written material and we improvise with the chunks of the written material, even if it's not conventional forms or chord changes. But this album Biome is different because the improv isn't like that necessarily. It's more woven into the compositions in a way that is less of a jazz approach.
Yeah, I wouldn't, it doesn't, you do a lot of beautiful improvising. I hear those parts, but it's not a typical, it's way past, or it's beyond some of what we think of as modern jazz coming out of New York City, large groups, amazing playing, a lot of, there's just so much going on in this music. There's a lot to grab onto, including your performance. Tell me, this record includes the International Contemporary Ensemble, which includes Jennifer Curtis, Isabel Lepanto, Rebecca Heller, Ross Carr on vibraphone and percussion, Joshua Rubin, Corey Smythe, and yourself. Who is the International Contemporary Ensemble?
Oh, well, they're a long-standing new music ensemble that includes a large roster of musicians beyond who plays on this record. I think there's like 40 people. And if you asked them, they might give you a different bio type thing, but I know them as a new music ensemble.
And are they based in New York?
They're based all over. Like, there are musicians that live in Chicago or Europe or, all over the world that are involved. But most of the ones that I know are in New York.
And are you still in New York?
Yes. Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay. And on this recording, I know you have a drum set and you have percussion. Then I see you have a vibraphone player also doing percussion. But what is in your drum set and what is your percussion bag of tricks on this record?
Right. Yes. So there's a lot of overlap. Like, Ross Carr plays vibraphone and percussion, and I play drum set and some smaller percussion. Not as much as Ross, actually, but there's overlap. Like, we both have wood blocks involved, and now I have to remember. I definitely had some basic things, just like a cowbell and a gong. Probably a bunch of little things, like little toys that aren't really like an instrument per se. They're more just a sound effect.
Right.
Really, Ross probably did, like, I'm trying to remember, because this is now 3 years ago that we recorded it.
Wow, really? So you recorded this before the pandemic? Oh, wow.
Right during, oh, you know what? No, wait, maybe it was 2021. I have to check the liner notes.
Wow.
It's been a blur the past couple years. But yeah, it's like when I listen back sometimes I don't even there's spots where I don't remember if it's me or Ross.
Wow. Well, there's definitely so much happening. This came out on May 6th or May 9th.
I think the 19th.
Oh, May 19th. And I guess you can get it on Bandcamp.
Yes.
Um, I collect percussion pieces. I have the Stockhausen, I forgot what it's called, on two different vinyl records. I have this amazing Japanese percussion record, uh, beautifully recorded with timpani. And whenever I see something interesting that's percussion, because I was a drummer, I always buy it. But for my way of thinking, there's not a whole lot going on in modern percussion ensembles. There's so little really cool percussion oriented things. And you really, really address all that. Um, and so what do you source from to write these pieces that are so complex and there's a lot happening and you can just follow it? But what's your inspiration? What's your sourcing for this material?
I think just all the music that I like, regardless of the genre or instruments involved, it all just sort of is like, for instance, Ikue Mori, her album Labyrinth, I think definitely, I mean, all her music, but I remember listening to that one around the time that I was composing, and just, it's all electronic, and yet it's making me think of all this, acoustic, classical, not classical, just acoustic instrument
Right.
ideas. It's
Hmm.
all just like, pitches and rhythms and sounds, and it doesn't really matter if it's, like I don't have a percussion album that influenced me
Huh.
per
Okay.
se, or something like that. Although actually, right, of course, right when I say that, Chess Smith's solo project, Kongs for Brums, uh, is is really, I think that's something that made me have a lot of ideas for this.
Hmm. Yeah,
But it's indirect. Like, I don't think it's something where you would necessarily hear the connection if I didn't mention it.
right, right. And it's also interesting that in this era of everything being electronic and program, it sounds like you're pretty much sticking to an acoustic drum set.
Yes, I have experimented with an electroacoustic setup
Yeah.
in a
That,
project with Matt that we have called Gloat Meal, where I have all these amplified objects set up. There's about like 16 contact microphones, just as many inputs as my audio interface has, that I sort of have arranged so that I can use all my limbs like a drum set. So there's some objects that are sort of like, duct taped to a bass drum beater, practice pad bass drum type of thing, and
right.
then like a table full of stuff, so I can sort of play it as if it's a drum set to some degree, although I also am using like my hands and like a bow and whatnot, and some of the sounds mimic drum set sounds a little bit, like electronic drum set sounds, and then some of the sounds are something different altogether. But I have explored that a little bit. I just there's so much you can, I'm just not bored of the acoustic drum set yet.
That's really great. And I can hear that because your music to me is very deep and rich, and there's so much to get from it. And this is written, I'm wearing crazy glasses for a reason. Okay. So this was written as sort of a suite because it just flows one to the other.
Yes. Yeah, I had to make it one piece because I got commissioned for one piece, but I wanted it to be a whole album. So I just figured I'd write a 13 movement piece, and, you know,
And have
you
you
know,
played it out yet?
yeah, we premiered it in 2022, I
Oh,
think. Yes. Yeah.
where?
At Roulette.
Oh, right. That said that in the press release. Um, does I really want to sort of understand because I'm not aware of anybody else doing what you're doing, even close. I mean, I think back, a million years ago, Bill Bruford was sort of bringing in classical elements, but this is so totally different. Do the I know you're just another instrument, you're another voice. But do you think when the drums are leading in such dense music, do the other musicians relate to you any differently, or to the music any differently?
Um, I'm not sure. Uh, I'm like, I don't know what it feels like from their perspective to be playing this kind of music with drums.
Okay, I mean, people really need to hear this, and it's dense. I mean, are is Varese and Boulez, are those okay influences? Would you say that's in there somewhere?
I would say it's in there somewhere, but my listening to them was probably more like over 10 years ago.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, for sure that, that affected me then, and that if things from that long ago still find their way. Even if you don't remember specific pieces you heard very clearly, like even if your memory of it fades, because it affects what you think of the next year and the next year, and it's just like a
Sure.
ongoing effect.
I mean, I also hear this from my own small world. I definitely hear some of those last records Frank Zappa did with his Yellow Shark Orchestra that he recorded with the London Symphony and some German symphony. It's really, really beautiful. But his thing is like sort of a straight Varese thing, and I think he's willing to say that. So it's your drum set, a standard snare drum, two toms, floor toms, cymbals. What's in your drum set?
Yeah, just I just have two toms, a small tom and a floor tom, and snare drum, bass drum. I usually have a ride cymbal, a crash cymbal, and if there's a third cymbal stand, like a China cymbal or some kind of effects cymbal, and sometimes I have like a little cymbal bell or something that I'll put on top of another cymbal just to add one without having to have a fourth cymbal stand.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm in a studio and they have more gear, a lot of the time I'll use it because why not? But if I'm bringing gear to a gig, I just try to bring as little as possible because it's physical wear and tear to be schlepping a lot of heavy stuff.
I
So,
get it. I get
and
it.
there's something to be said for being creative with a minimal amount of gear. I mean, I've played gigs where I've just brought like a snare drum and a yarn mallet, and it was awesome. So there's some times where it's fun to just be really limited and
A
see what
yard
happens.
mallet? Is that what you said?
Yarn.
Oh, oh, like a mallet with a yarn beater head or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, never heard of that. A yarn mallet. Um, can you take us through, in your way of thinking, are there high points or touchstone points throughout these? What is it, 13 or 15 tunes?
Yeah. So I think it's kind of bookended. Well, I should say this too. The order of the tracks, the movements is I thought out the sequencing for what it should be on the record, but in practice it can be several different orders. Like they can be rearranged and still connect into each other. I wrote the transitions so that there was some flexibility in terms of performing it. So like there could be a performance of this piece where we play movement 5 and then 2 and then end with 12, and then that's the whole performance. Just as an option, just because there's a lot of interesting ways that it could happen.
This is very
Um,
uh this is very challenging music. You think musicians are happy to do that? This is hard music, I would think.
yeah, I mean, I think they enjoyed working on it and playing it. I mean, I hope they did. I mean, I some of them I know better than others.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, we probably had, I think, 15 hours of rehearsal for the premiere, and we played it once, so it's kind of crazy to just have 15 hours of rehearsal for one performance. But
Did you record it?
yes, I don't know where the recording is, but it is either in the Roulette archives or Ice has it.
Yeah, I think Roulette records everything. Are they still in the same place over there in Brooklyn?
Yes.
Same
Yeah.
place they've always been?
Yeah.
It's such a cool neighborhood. So, what are the center points, the compositions that the other compositions sort of go to and wrap around, and why are those the center points for a really geeky question?
Yeah, I'm not even sure that I view any as center points, although there are some that kind of function more as like ones that don't have the full ensemble are maybe more like palette cleansers or something. I think the first 5 tracks are all kind of like equal in weight, and they're just different. It's an arc of different zones, but there's not one amongst the first 5 that sort of is like a center in my mind. Like they're all pretty they have a certain weight and equalness. And then 6 is just a trio with drums, clarinet, and flute. So that sort of feels like a little bit of a departure, like going into a different zone. And then track 7 is the full ensemble again, and that also feels pretty equal in weight to the first 5. Then track 7 is a percussion piece with just Ross and I, and that's really like the real kind of like halfway through palette cleanser intermission type piece. I think that's like the most different from the others. Then 8 is, oh, what's 8? No, that is 8. That's track 8. Then track 9, 10. 10 doesn't have drums, so that's another change. But that also it still feels, yeah. So then I'm just thinking 9, 10, 11, 12. 9, 10, 11, 12 again are all pretty like equal in weight to me. And then the coda is like this weird quiet coda that's just piccolo and vibraphone, and it's very quiet and different. And so that is maybe, not a centerpiece type thing. Yeah,
Right.
I don't think there necessarily is a sense like it to my ears. There's not necessarily high and low points.
Well, I need to listen more. I won't tell you why I'm doing this. Kind of an inside joke.
I like it. I have a few things. So this is the cover, and this is inside art,
Very cool.
and it comes with an insert that has all of the a little bit of an explanation as to what the titles are, because the titles of the movements are Drobe, Ikby, Orn, Bip, Flib, Chorp, Nine, Vlim, Zooks, Moons, Shorm, Drode, Ith.
Kind of
All these
Aphex
made up.
Twinish. Kind of like Aphex
Yeah.
Twin titles. What do all those mean, or why the odd titles?
So there's this insert that sort of addresses that, and it's sort of like a glossary of sorts with drawings, and a lot of the definitions refer to other definitions. They all sort of name elements of this imaginary biome on an alien moon. So some of them are species or creatures. One of the things is a gas that causes genetic mutations. One of them refers to an extinction event. Some of them refer to, like the way the other moons, because the setting is around a gas giant planet, the other moons of like their effect on the moon, where the biome is, and like orbital resonance and stuff like that. All
Wow.
this stuff I made it up like well after the music. It was
Right.
sort of like I just wanted to make up words that were pleasing, that fit as titles to me first. But then once I had them, it was like, oh well, this could be like that, and this could be that, and then
I love
eventually I had
that.
this whole
It's a whole
backstory.
package. What is a
Yeah.
what does in this record, what is a biome?
Um, well, it's a collection of things like an ecosystem that all affect each other.
Okay.
Some living, non-living, but the non-living things and the living things affect each other.
And
Yeah.
that's a thing outside of your record.
Oh yeah, like
Oh,
I'm sure I'd be interesting to just like look up the definition of by. I don't have my phone
don't
handy.
worry about that.
I also have just because I had this handy, this is actually the original
Oh wow.
analog album art. And I have a video that is a time lapse of me making it on
Oh.
YouTube.
Is that on your website?
Um, it might be on my website, but it's I I don't remember. I think I posted it to my website at some point, but it's definitely on YouTube. If you just, if you search Kate Gentile biome II, it'll come up. But I just made it as like a promo video to share like a preview of some of the music. So there's like a collage of different excerpts from the album with this time lapse of the art.
Hmm. Is it your artwork?
Yes, yeah, I
Oh,
did
wow.
everything. Yeah,
Oh, wow, that's really beautiful. So
thanks.
varied. What did that thing you held up? What's the medium?
Oh, it's mostly collage. There's some paint, like this part is paint here. There's some paint on the collage pieces. This all has paint on it. This texture is like dripping paint. It's just a mixture of collage and paint. So like a lot of these are, you can feel the edges. They're like just, it's all collage pieces. Like this area is paint. There's paint on the pieces,
Is it
different
pastel
places.
or oil or
It's just like, cheap acrylic paint, just like, budget acrylic.
so that round globe is the biome?
Uh, yeah, I guess like this whole area is like the moon, and then this is, the gas giant planet in the background, and like maybe these are some of the other moons.
Very creative. So have you thought about what you want to do next? I mean, you're very prolific and you have so much going on. Is there a world or an avenue you want to go down that you haven't yet?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think all of the things I've wanted to do have been these. It's hard to keep up with yourself, and like keep up with
If
your
you're
own
you,
ideas,
yeah.
and
Huh.
and financially to keep up. Like maybe people don't talk about that quite enough, because you might have 10 records worth of ideas that you could make, and you only end up getting to make one of those for every 10 because of the rate that you can make enough money to pay to put them out. When you're outside of New York, especially when you're a student and you're younger, like so hard, it's really cutthroat, like you're gonna live in a shoebox apartment with no windows and pay like $2,000 a month, and you're
Right.
not going to have a gig for 10 years, and you got to like pay your dues, and all this stuff. And there's it's sort of true, but also like you can come here and have gigs right away.
Well, you're incredibly talented. I mean, you're a great musician. I don't know of anybody doing anything close to what you're doing and doing it from the drum set. And I hear a lot of the new music, and some of it I just don't care for. But there's so much happening in your music. Everything I've ever heard, there's a lot to grab onto, and there's beautiful melodies. It's really dense. So of course you'd be working.
I'm this Fine Letter X album represents a lot of what I've wanted to do, which in is some of the things on like from Mannequins, an extension of that, but like really upping the ante in terms of the kinds of material we're dealing with and how we're improvising with it. And it also incorporates more influences of my love of metal. And like for instance, on the middle disc, it's the discs, there's sort of a structure to the three. So it's a triple album. I don't know if I said that.
Oh,
It's
wow.
it's yeah, it's a big project. I I can't believe this band played all this music.
This
It's
is Fine Letter X.
yeah, I can't believe we did it all. But the middle disc is sort of more dark, aggressive. There's like double pedal playing on it, and Kim
Cool. You
plays
do that
electric
too.
bass,
Far
and
out.
Matt plays Prophet synths, and it's really, yeah. I mean, you'll I'm sure I'll send it to you or Pi I'll send it to you, or whatever, when it comes out. But yeah, and there's the tracks are all kind of related in this weird way, sort of like this, almost like it makes me think of like David Lynch and Twin Peaks or something, where there's that logic that doesn't quite make sense. Like it's like dream logic. Like it makes sense and you can tell like what things symbolize other things and are connected, but the timeline is all weird and yeah, so the first and third disc are more acoustic and the middle disc is more electronic, but each has some of the other in it too.
That's very cool. Well, I can't wait to hear that. And it's great to catch up with you again. I'm glad you're so prolific and there's so much going on, and people need to hear your music. Great stuff. You're a great musician.
Thanks so much, Ken.